days to go to the FIFA World Cup 2022. And you know what? Some years back, a few people could plan and actually travel to wherever the World Cup was being held around the world. But today, a majority of you don't have to travel to Qatar. Why? We are bringing Qatar to you. 28 matches will be beamed live right here on KBC Channel 1, and the total 64 matches will be broadcast on all our radio stations. So good evening and thank you for joining us. My name is Mboya. Top in this live broadcast. Creating a motivated force, government in move to boost morale of the police to secure the country. Trapped in the rubble, rescuers comb through a collapsed building in Kasarani for survivors. And Cherera 4 in trouble as petitions are filed in Parliament seeking their removal for gross misconduct. Thank you once again for joining us. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Mboya24, and our sign language is Susan Thuko. Before we begin this live broadcast, let's take you to Kasarani, where my colleague Timothy Kipnusu is holding fort. Of course, we do understand a multi-story building collapsed in Tasia and Embakasi. There were fatalities, and we also do understand that a number of tenants are still trapped. Timothy Kipnusu, give us the status of that tragedy. Timothy Kipnusu, if you can hear me.
A very good evening to you, my colleague there at the broadcasting house. Yes, indeed, I'm coming to you live from Seasons in Kasarani, in Nairobi County, where a 7-story building collapsed at around 2 p.m. today. And of course, the rescue team arrived a bit late. A team from the Kenya Defense Forces, that is a rapid deployment unit, have been here at around 6 p.m. just to try and salvage the situation. I'm made to understand that early in the morning, the National Construction Authority were trying to pursue the contractor who had continued with the construction of this particular building, and yet they were given a notice not to construct this building because it was illegally constructed. And I understand that 6 people have been arrested so far, and they are actually pursuing the contractor who is on the run. And of course, this is happening just a week after another building collapsed in Embakasi, Tasia, where 2 people were confirmed dead in that particular incident. And of course, St. John Ambulance, that is the rescue team from St. John Ambulance, the Red Cross, and of course the team from the Engineers Board of Kenya, and of course a number of people have been here just to save the situation, just to find out if at all there are some people who are trapped or still in this particular building. As you can see, that is an excavator from the Kenya Defense Forces, just trying to make sure that if there is anyone who was trapped here, because it is a building that was under construction, and of course no one has been confirmed dead yet, but we're still trying to find out what happened. And joining me now is a lady here who will just try to tell us, because she was here to tell us what happened, because many people are here trying to find out what could have led the building to collapse. Of course, there are a number of cases is because of having substandard building, and of course the contractors not meeting the standard that is required by the National Construction Authority. Asante sana mama kuweza kujiunga nasi. Pengine tueleze ulikuwa hapa wakati gani na pengine nini ulichokiona?
Sasa Kenya mimi
karibu tu hapa, karibia.
Mimi Kenya niliona, nilikuwa huko juu, nilikuwa nawaekea chai. Sasa kulikuwa na wengine walikuwa hapa chini
waangalie
ile kamera Sasa wakaniambia niteremke kwanza niwawekee chai. Sasa mimi nikateremka na nikawekea chai. Sasa kuwekea
mafundi.
Hapana, kuna wengine walikuwa hapa chini. tulikuwa wawili, wakaniambia kwanza niteremke chini. Sasa nilikuwa napanda huko juu ndio niwape chakula, niwapandishie chakula huko, alafu niteremke na masahani. Sasa ikabidi niteremke hao wako chini ndio ni wasafu. Sasa kuwasafu mimi hata dakika 5 haikuisha nikasikia hizi beam zilikuwa hizi katikati hizo column, nikaona imejikuja. Sasa hapo ndio nilianza kupiga duru ndio watu wafanye nini, ndio watu watoke. Sasa tulikuwa na kijana mwingine, sasa tukapiga duru mpaka watu wakatoroka, lakini unajua venye nyumba inatingika hivi, ilikuja tu mara moja tu ikaanguka na ikatarabazia kila kitu. Sasa kuna watu walikuwa nafanya kazi pande ile. Sasa hao watu walikuwa nafanya kazi pande ile. Sasa hao walipotelea pande ya nyuma. Sasa hao waliponea pande ile. Lakini wenye walikuwa pande hii kuna wenye wametolewa sijui watu samba. Ndio wametolewa hosi. Hata mimi ningekuwa mmoja wapo wa kufunikwa na juu nilikuwa na kitchen hapo.
Na pengine wakati huo ambapo kulikuwa kunafanyika mambo haya, hao watu ambao walikuwa wanakuja kusaidia walifika saa ngapi? Walikuja kusaidia. Tuseme hawakukaa. Hawakukaa. Walikuja wenye walikuwa wametangulia asubuhi kukuja juu walikuwa nasema watu watoke site waende. Hawakukaa. Walikuja immediately wakasema siri nimwambia mtoke kwa hii site muende. Sasa ikabidi watu warudi juu. Ndio mashida ni mingi. Sasa mtu akiambiwa hakuna mshahara leo na mashida bado inakusukuma, unaona sasa inabidi ufanye kazi. Naambiwa kwamba asubuhi ule contractor alikuwa tafutwa na wale watu maafisa kwamba hii jengo haikuwa imeweza kuzingatia ile taratibu, kwamba kulikuwa hata mahali ambapo kimepasuka. Pengine kwa mtazamo wako nini imechangia?
Wacha niseme hizo column ilikuwa imefura mpaka hata jana ilikuwa tu hivyo, ilikuwa imefura. Na huyo mwenye kusimamia mwenye kuleta material nikamuuliza kwa nini hizi columns zina pasuka hivi. Sasa yeye akanijibu ni jana. Sasa akanijibu sasa hiyo column ni venye hichapo haiweki simiti ya kutosha. Hiyo story ikaishia hapo. Sasa leo ndio tuliona maajabu.
Pengine kwa mtazamo wako ni watu wangapi, kama wakati jengo hili liliporomoka, ni watu wangapi walikuwa hapa ndani?
Wenye walikuwa tuseme kitu watu 30 hivi. Almost 30.
Asante. There you have it. That is one of the lady who was serving the number of people who were here when the building was under construction. And of course, early around 7 p.m., the member of parliament for this particular constituency, that is Ronald Karauri, was here, and he faulted the rescue team for arriving here late. And of course, as the lady has mentioned, we do not have the exact figure of the people who were here in this particular building when the building collapsed. And of course, we'll be here just to keep tabs on what is happening in this particular area where a 7-story building has collapsed. And of course, as she has mentioned, it is like the contractor defied the rules that are set in constructing the building. And we will be here to understand. Of course, from me, Timothy Kipnusu, I hand you back to Studio Broadcasting House.
Timothy Kipnusu, our reporter there, engaging with a witness, a lady who witnessed that building collapse, and sharing what she observed while seeing the building collapse. A number of people obviously rescued, according to her, and rushed to the hospital. And Kipnusu there confirming to us that the area member of parliament also making an appearance at that site and faulting those behind the building. And of course, there's the bigger question around standards. We will be keeping our tabs on that report. Now, moving on, the government will soon engage police officers and members of the public through public participation to discuss the welfare of the men and women in uniform in a bid to ensure that they carry out their mandate without any challenges. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki says that salaries, uniforms, as well as other administrative issues will have to be addressed as a matter of urgency so that the force works professionally and also independently. Here is that report.
The welfare of officers under the National Police Service is being treated as a matter of urgency, even as they go on about their duties of serving and protecting the country. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki says in the next few days the government will roll out measures to ensure necessary changes are undertaken.
Tutawauliza maoni yao, tutauliza hata wananchi, na hii mambo yote itatuletea sura mpya ya polisi ambao ni sura ya kutenda kazi, na tutaangalia maswala yote.
Professor Kindiki reiterated that the government will not interfere with the independence of the service or order officers to perform duties contrary to their mandate.
It's not the intention of government to interfere or ask police officers to perform extraneous roles, especially of a non-partisan matter. We want our police officers to concentrate on maintaining law and order.
Acknowledging the security situation in the country, the Cabinet Secretary further noted that resource-based conflicts due to climate change is a matter of concern.
There is a lot of movement of especially pastorates, and sometimes they have issues with their hosts in terms of the grazing, and then in the process, some of the farm produce is being destroyed, and there are disputes arising from there.
Professor Kindiki finally assured Kenyans of their safety, calling on citizens to collaborate with the National Police Service. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, the Cabinet has sanctioned the deployment of a specialized force from the General Service Unit, GSU, to augment the police in dealing with the surging insecurity that we have seen lately in the capital city of Nairobi. In a meeting chaired by President William Ruto, the Cabinet noted that reorganization of the Nairobi City Security Command and the need to upskill security surveillance within the city to deter crime. The meeting also approved the reinstatement of the multi-agency coordination between the security organs on one side and operations at all points of entry to prevent trafficking of narcotics and either psychotropic substances.
President William Ruto presided over the second cabinet meeting on Tuesday at State House in Nairobi, where it was agreed that order must prevail in the country. The cabinet affirmed the reorganization of the Police Service Command in Nairobi and approved the deployment of additional specialized units drawn from the General Service and the Rapid Deployment Units to help secure the city. The move is aimed at deterring crime and is expected to decisively deal with all those perpetrating lawlessness. The Cabinet also approved the reinstatement of the multi-agency coordination between Kenya's security organs and operators at all points of entry into the country as a heightened measure to detect and prevent trafficking in narcotics and other psychotropic substances.
Now, the Baringo County Police Commander, Adamson Bungei, has been named the new Nairobi Police Chief. Bungei takes over from James Mugera, who has since retired from the service after attaining the retirement age. Bungei served as the OCPD, Buruburu, and Central before being transferred to Baringo 2 years ago. His appointment is among a dozen others announced in the police service on Tuesday.
Inspector General Japhet Koome has announced 13 changes involving senior officers in the shake-up that has seen Baringo County Police Commander Adamson Bungei promoted as the new Nairobi police boss. Bungei takes over from James Mugera, who has since retired from the service. Bungei's announcement comes just hours after Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki announced changes in the National Police Service Command in Nairobi following the resurgence of criminal gangs. In the changes, Abdallah Komesha, who was recently moved to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters as the head of personnel, is the new principal deputy to the Inspector General. Komesha takes over from Munga Nyale, who has been moved to police headquarters as the Director of Police Reforms. Boniface Mahingi, who was the National Police Service Director of Personnel, is now the Director of Operations, taking over from Rashid Yakub, who has been deployed to head Community Policing Wing as the Director. Jacinta Muthoni has been appointed the Director of Personnel at Vigilance House. Judy Lamet, who served as the Director of Child Protection Unit at the National Police Headquarters, has been promoted to Deputy Director of Police Operations. The changes take effect immediately. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
Of course, a lot of Nairobi residents hoping that those changes will translate into some action on the ground. We're taking our first short break. Do stay with us. I'll be back shortly.
Hi, my name is Mr. Otieno. Na ukumbuke FIFA World Cup 2022 iko hapa here in KBC na kuhitaji. Karibu.
To get the pit as your skiza tune, dial star 811 star 397 hash.
You may be in the pit. You do not see how you could get out. But the good news is that you do not have to get by yourself. The Most High God is about to lift you out. He's about to turn the medical report. He's about to free you. He's about to open new doors, bringing new opportunities, new relationships. The pit is not your destination. Get ready to rise.
To get the pit, dial star 811 star 397 hash. Star 811 star 397 hash.
November like never before. Mouth-watering programs. Maza takes a break, and in comes football extravaganza. And a bouquet of the best of movies from the Orient lined up for you. Oh yes, November 2022 is like never before. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back to Prime Edition. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Mboya24. Now, you remember the ongoing vetting of the 51 principal nominees. The High Court has put it on hold until a case challenging the process is heard and determined. The Law Society of Kenya has moved to court seeking orders to stop the process over the lack of regional representation in the nomination of the principal secretaries. Here is that story.
High Court Judge Justice Nzioki Makau has certified the case filed by Law Society of Kenya as urgent, effectively barring Parliament from vetting the remaining nominees for Principal Secretary. LSK had moved to court to challenge the nominations, arguing that it was not representative of the true face of Republic. The Law Society of Kenya, in its petition, had argued that the list of nominees did not take into account regional and tribal representation, the 2/3 gender rule, youth and persons with disabilities.
Even with the elected leaders, and this takes me to my question on...
Just hours before the orders were issued Tuesday, Principal Secretary nominee for Defense Patrick Mariro appeared before the lawmakers, where he defended the deployment of Kenya Defense Forces to the Democratic Republic of Congo.
It's not a unilateral decision. It is a shared responsibility within the East Africa. And we're just doing what we agreed to do. And as I said, the DRC question, the decision we made and took as a country is the right one, in my view, and in the view of government and in the view of the National Assembly having approved that.
Nominee for Foreign Relations, Sing'oei Korir, committed to setting up a joint monitoring mechanism between the Ministry of Labour and Foreign Affairs to protect exported labour.
We will develop a joint monitoring mechanism between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Labour, so that no Kenyan should be able to exit our borders to go and work in a particular jurisdiction, particularly in the Middle East, without the knowledge of our authorities, so that we are able to know almost in real time what their current status is.
Other nominees who appeared before the Defense Committee include the nominee for State Department of Diaspora Rosary Njogu and Abdi Dubat of East Africa Community Affairs. Isho Kwashira, Prime Edition.
4 petitioners want the National Assembly to remove from office 4 commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission over what they term violation of the Constitution. The petitioners, who included the Republican Party, Reverend Dennis Ndumbi Ndegwa, Geoffrey Lengat, and Owor Steve Jerry, accused Commissioners Juliana Cherera, Irene Masit, Justice Nyakaya, and Francis Wanderi of gross misconduct in the management of the 2022 general poll. Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, has directed the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee to consider the petitions and give its report within 14 days.
The next 14 days, 4 IEBC commissioners, Juliana Cherera, Irene Masit, Justice Nyagaya, and Francis Wanderi, are expected to appear before the National Assembly Justice and Legal Affairs Committee for hearings over attempts to kick them out of office. The 4 have been cited for serious violation of the law, incompetence, and failure to promote public trust in the 2022 presidential results.
Mr. Jerry calls upon the House to consider his petition, urgently vote on it, and transmit it to His Excellency the President for the appointment of a tribunal to investigate the conduct and violations committed by the 4 commissioners as outlined in his petition.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, who read the petitions, tasked the committee to investigate whether the claims satisfy the grounds for removal.
The committee must refrain from prosecuting the petitions on behalf of the petitioners. Instead, it shall allow each petitioner to present their case and permit the affected commissioners to present their responses and thereafter consider whether a ground for removal has been disclosed or not.
The petitions have, however, generated varied opinions from legislators.
As we speak, the Deputy CEO of IEBC, Madam Ruth Kulundu, is in court on, among other things, convening a meeting with the 4 commissioners to decide on legal representation. So this House will be contravening its own rules and indeed the law generally by entertaining a petition that is touching on issues that are actively before court. I don't see the urgency.
The committee purely is quasi-judicial. It's going to hear the parties properly and then guide the House on what is to be done with these 4 petitions.
I think actually this petition is in very bad taste. It's taking the country back. And I think what we need to do is let the commissioners go on with their work. The ones who are supposed to retire, let them retire honorably. Let the ones who want to continue with their work continue.
We always have issues with IEBC. But one of the things that I realized, we deal with commissioners, but we don't deal with the staff. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as we look at the petitions, can we also now realign IEBC to go back to the independence that it had? And since the 3 are also coming out, so it means we shall have a clean slate. I don't want to say anything about that.
And the rest for East African Legislative Assembly representation is in top gear, with Parliament set for a special sitting Thursday morning to conduct elections for Kenyan representatives to the East African body.
Let those people who are interested in representing our republic in IALA lobby and canvass and caucus. And there's no formula for doing it, Mr. Speaker.
The fact that a candidate has not served in any parliament before should never act as a bar towards them ascending to the East African Legislative Assembly.
Vote for the right candidate because it is important that whoever we send to East Africa, they will represent the face of the country.
And I urge members to be guided by the geographical consideration so that the entire community of Kenya is also in East Africa. I support.
Kenya has 9 vacancies and candidates from various parties have been lobbying. Kamchemenza for Prime Edition.
Amani National Congress Party leader Issa Timami says ANC is very much alive and active at the grassroots. Timami, who took over the reign of the party leadership from Musalia Mudavadi, says that he intends to build on the successes of his predecessor.
First, I want to appreciate and thank the former party leader, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the ANC leadership, the ANC membership, for bestowing on me this honorable position as the party leader of ANC. I want to assure you all that I shall not fail you, God willing. It is big shoes for anyone to fill. Honorable Mudavadi has been on the political scene for very many years. He is a giant of politics in this country. And the various positions he has held in this country surely indicate his stature. Therefore, it will not be easy to fill his shoes. It's a challenge, but believe you me, I am up to that challenge. We will ensure that we re-energize our party. I want to assure the party fraternity and all Kenyans that there is no issue that ANC will fold. ANC will remain, we will be vibrant, and we are there to stay.
We're going to be working together as a team, finding new ways in which we can increase the reach of the party, finding better ways in which we can select our candidates going forward.
We also want to assure His Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, that we are here to support him, to fully support him, to make sure that the Kenya Kwanza government is going to go down in history as one that was most responsive to the people's needs and that led to a true revolution of the bottom-up economics.
Now, the hearing of the petition challenging election of Wajir Governor Hamid Abdullahi kicked off Tuesday with a first witness testifying that the polls were marred by cases of chaos and hence were not free and fair. The court was told that party agents as well as voters were denied access to some of the polling stations.
On the first day of the hearing of the petition filed by Jubilee Party's Hassan Mohammed challenging the re-election of Wajir Governor Ahmed Abdullahi, Jubilee Party agent in the election Falana Adam was the first to take to the stand before High Court Judge George Dulu. Falana told the court how some voters were allegedly locked out of the voting exercise because their names could not be found in the voter register.
Your affidavit is as follows, at paragraph 6. That at Mboya primary polling station, the petitioner's agent was removed from the polling station by the presiding officer at 2 p.m. after the agent raised complaints about voters perceived to be allied. The petitioner were being targeted and turned away from the voting for a number of dubious reasons. You understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Now, if I'm voting at Mboya polling station, for instance, I have walked, I'm coming to vote. How would somebody know that I'm perceived to be allied to the petitioner for me to be excluded for a dubious reason, as you say?
In the election in question, Ahmed Abdullahi bounced back to the county's top seat after garnering 35,533 votes against Jubilee Party's Hassan Mohammed Aidan, who garnered 27,224 votes. Former Deputy Governor Ahmed Ali Mukhtar came in third with 21,859 votes. Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Now, Kisumu Governor Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o has appealed to the County Assembly to back his development agenda for the county. Nyong'o has told the ward representatives that the county's aspirations can only be achieved through a cordial working relationship between the executive and the Assembly. In his address to the 3rd Kisumu County Assembly, the governor noted that any kind of disharmony among the country's elected leaders will derail his development agenda for the lakeside city of Kisumu. Nyong'o says he intends to spur growth in areas such as healthcare, the blue economy, and agriculture, among other sectors.
The Assembly on the 15th of November 2022, as laid by the leader of majority.
The people of Kisumu are looking upon us with anxiety and hope. They know both the Assembly and the Executive have the answer for some of the most pressing issues in society. To them, there may be no difference between the two arms of the county government. We are like Siamese twins, tied at the hip and never to separate. The journey of developing and building Kisumu to respond to the needs of our people has been both challenging and fulfilling. At times, we have been disappointed by little achievements, but have taken pride in the bigger ones. And so we have to keep pushing on because there is work to be done, and we must do it.
Well, of course, the governor of Kisumu, Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, and the High Commissioner from India to Kenya also commissioned a machine, and that machine was gifted by the government of India to the county of Kisumu. We'll take a short break at this point. When we come back, we will have more, including business news and later on the day's sports. Stay with us.
الأسطورة يطوي الليل لتروي لنا القصة تعانق روح من تقابل ومنذ بداية البطولة أسفرت لنا عن أبطال وأباطرة وملوك في خضم المعارك الملحمية وصدمات الجبابرة ينمو الشغف حد الازدهار ويتركون إرثا ينتشر كالنار أثار الأقدام على الرمال ترشد الأسطورة إلى سرابنا الخلاب من سيحوز المجد ويكتب الفصل التالي من هذه القصة التاريخية الأسطورة أسطورة كأس العالم فيفا.
Tisala, please, I love you. I love you, and you know you come first on my list. You are the woman I chose and with whom I want to be with.
Well, I don't think so.
If you were only a bit wiser and used your head, you wouldn't have gone to spend all the money that I gave you. Going on a spending spree at a public place, how dare you do something like that? I can't believe how stupid you are.
But it's unbelievable that a woman such as you are, a woman who claims to have great experience with people with the same disease as Mrs. Raquel, has led her to this state.
Liana. Wait, what are you saying?
That you were supposed to study and that you were going to stay at the Murat's house.
So you mean you were spying on me?
Oh, no.
For Neubel, it's hit the post. Incredible free kick. Well, it didn't seem likely with everyone expecting a cross to be delivered. Look at the power on this. Bending away from Marcos. I think it brushed the back of Roque Jr. on the way through. It's a great save. Fingertips from the goalkeeper onto the woodwork.
human actions are destroying habitats, decimating our entire ecosystem and disrupting the circle of life. And with the rise in drought cases, it is up to us to be guardians of our own natural world, save our wild species, and provide a home.
We focus on today's business news. My name is Wairu Mujenga. Now, Kenya has established direct trade linkages with the United Arab Emirates through corresponding special export zones in efforts to create organized market outlets for small-scale operators. Cooperatives and MSME Development Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui says Kenya has already identified 73 areas for strategic trade with several countries where special duty-free rules will apply, especially for manufacturing.
Kenya's exports to the UAE last year stood at $315.21 million, while imports from the Middle Eastern country was above $1.5 billion. Cooperative and MSME Development Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui says the government is keen on reducing the trade imbalance by creating direct business-to-business linkages and its trade partners.
We are keen to learn more from UAE in terms of sustainable agriculture, innovation and productive ways of SMEs to push us towards food secure position and resilient and sustainable businesses.
You can see the number of trade increase between both countries, and this is our target for the people in the private sector, and we're looking forward to continue this journey.
Chelugui says international manufacturers will be provided with favorable working conditions to ensure a self-sufficient local supply chain that allows for value addition of goods before exportation. In addition, he says with the special export zones, Kenya will be the regional gateway into the African market, and MSMEs should take advantage of the opportunities.
Companies here in Kenya find their way out in the globe because the companies we are partnering have already set base, they are already solid, they have already gotten access to the global market, and therefore for us it is easier for us to trade with them, and so that they can be able to take our products there.
Through this partnership, we can have a quick way of uplifting our small and micro enterprises to big corporates by partnering with other businesses across our globe.
The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Investment says small businesses should also look into e-commerce, as the digital economy is a sector of interest in trade expansion. Further, MSMEs will also be trained on the quality requirements in the UAE for imports to ensure products meet their standards.
We are working very closely now with regulators so that they can be able to meet the standards that are required by our partners out there, and at the same time acceptable standards by the users in the UAE market.
And as Kenya forages more into the global market, MSMEs are now being directly linked in order for the export market to grow. Hibak Said for Prime Edition.
Internet users in Kenya will soon have faster access and better protection from cyber attacks following the installation of Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers ICON managed root server cluster in Nairobi. ICT Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says installation of the first in Africa root server is in line with the government's target to digitally transform Kenya.
In the last decade, Kenya has witnessed rapid adoption and use of mobile technology and mobile internet, expedited by increased access to mobile broadband and the spread of low-cost smart devices. According to data from the Communications Authority of Kenya, 96.3% of Kenya is covered by 3G and 4G network. However, 56.3% of the population is not covered, while 44% is completely without. To further boost internet connectivity, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, has deployed a new ICANN Managed Route Server, IMRS, for the African market in Kenya. This is expected to scale up the internet access and stability throughout the continent, as well as reduce cases of cyber attacks.
The installation of the IMRS cluster in Kenya aligns with our mission to digitally transform not only our own country, but the entire continent through regulation, partnership, and innovation.
What it means for the internet users is that internet technology makes it a little bit faster, a little bit more secure, but it also follows the capacity that is needed in Africa, where the internet penetration goes up so much.
The new ICANN Managed Route Server helps improve the domain name system. ICT and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the server complements the government's development agenda to roll out a digital superhighway in Kenya, adding that a more resilient internet to a larger audience is wanting.
The Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, on the basis of which our development agenda is pegged, includes a very specific commitment on establishing a digital superhighway in Kenya and embracing the creative economy. From the very onset, I wish to thank ICANN for choosing Kenya as the host of this critical component of the core internet infrastructure.
Owalo says the government's focus is on universal broadband throughout the country, laying of an additional 100,000 kilometers of national fiber optic cable, digitization of all critical government services, establishment of digital hubs, and cost reduction of digital technology.
Now, experts have started to draft the COP27 text, which will be presented to member countries for adoption on Friday this week. The Africa Group of Negotiators legal advisor Seth Osafo says various aspects of the work remains unresolved, with negotiators agreeing to continue with the talks next week in a bid to develop a draft before the Friday deadline.
The clock is ticking and negotiators are feeling the pressure of delivering a COP27 draft text before the deadline on Friday. And the Africa Group of Negotiators are saying that the text that has to be delivered must reflect the aspirations and the desires of the African continent, because this has been dubbed as a COP of Africa.
Participants at the climate change conference in Egypt were getting wary after disagreements on various financing issues threatened to derail the COP27. Some of the countries were threatening to invoke the famous Rule 16, which dictates that any item of the agenda of an ordinary session which has not been completed at the session is pushed to the next meeting, in this case COP28 in Dubai in 2023. However, a last-minute push and concessions allowed technical teams to draft the text, with some contentious issues to be thrust in the coming weeks.
There are challenges, because each time Africa comes up with proposal to address the special needs and circumstances of Africa, other countries and other parties also say that we also have special needs and circumstances. So this has been a major challenge.
The Africa Group of Negotiators pushed for adoption of funding arrangements for loss and damage, with a team of experts now expected to work on the technical details like financing and contribution formula. Africa Group of Negotiators legal advisor Seth Osafo has said Africa had to make concessions with issues like special needs for Africa and the doubling of adaptation fund failing to make it into the COP presidency consultations agenda.
All we are saying is that you made a pledge in 2009 that from 2020 you will provide $100 billion a year to support developing countries to meet climate change challenges. That money is not coming.
Another issue that has divided negotiators is whether China and India should be included in the loss and damage agenda, with the West saying that the two countries are big polluters. The focus is now turning to Thursday to see what kind of a text will be presented to the ministers for adoption on Friday. From Sharm El Sheikh, I'm O'Brien Kimani.
The Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology has developed a hybrid high-yielding maize seed variety that can withstand drought. The hybrid maize seed, which was developed by Kenya and Chinese scientists, yields double than the conventional maize seeds.
The Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology is on the path to introduce a new hybrid maize variety into the Kenyan market. The maize variety, which is a joint venture between Kenyan scientists and the Chinese counterparts, has seen maize yields double during their first trial. The variety, which was planted in May this year and harvested last week, produced 90 kilograms bags of maize per acre compared to 15 bags using the traditional maize varieties.
The weather was very dry. And that's one reason why we were glad that we did that work here when the weather was rather challenging.
The maize seed is also drought resistant and can be grown in dry regions.
We are moving from conventional breeding to crop molecular biology, assisted breeding using molecular elements. So I believe that the importance of this lab cannot be overestimated. It's very key and very important for Kenyan and also global agriculture.
The hybrid maize seed production project is one of the Sino-Africa joint research programs that has seen 45 researchers focusing on a range of agricultural sector done, including use of affordable greenhouse technology that has since been adopted by farmers. China has been keen on increasing its investments in the Kenyan agricultural sector, with the Asian nation funding construction of a crop molecular biology laboratory at Egerton University to increase agricultural research. Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
That is where we put a cap on tonight's business news. On the other end of the studio, we have Richard Munga with a sports update. My name is Wairin Mujenga. Have a good night.
الأسطورة يطوي الليل لتروي لنا القصة تعانق روح من تقابل ومنذ بداية البطولة أسفرت لنا عن أبطال وأباطرة وملوك في خضم المعارك الملحمية وصدمات الجبابرة ينمو الشغف حد الازدهار ويتركون إرثا ينتشر كالنار أثار الأقدام على الرمال ترشد الأسطورة إلى سرابنا الخلاب من سيحوز المجد ويكتب الفصل التالي من هذه القصة التاريخية أسطورة كأس العالم فيفا.
Well, roughly 5 days, 2 hours and 9 minutes till the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar that is going to be brought to you live on KBC Channel 1. That is 20 28 matches live on TV, while we have 64 matches on our radio stations. I'm Richard Munga with the latest in the world of sports. Now, Ecuador called up 3 Brighton and Hove Albion players as they became the final team to confirm their 2022 World Cup squads. Ecuador, who were placed alongside Senegal and the Netherlands in Group A, will play host Qatar in the opening game on Sunday. The 2022 World Cup finals in Qatar once again will be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1 and all KBC's radio stations beginning on the 20th of this month until the 18th of December 2022. World Cup, Eco KBC.
Pelvis Estupinan, Moises Caicedo and Jeremy Sarmiento, a former England youth international, were named in Ecuador provisional squad. Fenerbahce striker Ana Valencia, the country's all-time top scorer with 35 goals, will captain the 26-man squad as Byron Castillo was left out of the squad. Gustavo Alfaro's Ecuador will play host Qatar in the opening game of the World Cup on Sunday and are placed alongside Senegal and the Netherlands in Group A. Meanwhile, the Netherlands has been handed a major boost as Barcelona superstar Memphis Depay has been able to train with the team. The forward was able to complete the entire training session with his teammates, including Denzel Dumfries. This will serve as a major boost for the Netherlands, who are expected to heavily rely on the service of Depay in the attacking department. The Barcelona frontman is one of their most experienced stars, having scored 42 goals in 81 appearances. England defender John Stones says his board with Harry Maguire will not be affected by Maguire's recent lack of football going into the 22 World Cup. Centre-back pairing Stones and Maguire are going into their third major tournament together after the 2018 World Cup and Euro 2020. Maguire has only started one Manchester United league game since August. Manchester City defender Stones and United's Maguire have played together 29 times, including in England's run to the 2018 World Cup semi-finals and Euro 2020 final. Gareth Southgate's sides face Iran in their World Cup opener on Monday 21st November. The 2022 World Cup finals in Qatar will be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1 and all KBC radio stations beginning on the 20th of this month to the 18th of December 2022. World Cup, Eco KBC.
Oh, speaking of England, of course, the 3 Lions left Birmingham and are heading to Qatar ahead of the World Cup, which kicks off on Sunday. And once again, I'll remind you that KBC Channel 1 shall be bringing you the matches live starting the 20th of this month, that is on Sunday, until the 18th of December. Now let's move on to other matters, whereby World Marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge has been nominated in the final 5-man list for the Male World Athlete of the Year award. Meanwhile, the national under-18 boxing team that was scheduled to participate in IBA Youth Men's and Women's World Championship, that is in Alicante from the 14th till the 26th of November, will not be traveling to Spain due to financial constraints.
The 2-time Olympic champion will be battling for the award alongside World and Olympic 3,000 meter steeplechase champion Sofiane El Bakali, World pole vault champion and record holder Modo Duplantis, World 200 meters champions Noah Lyons, and the World 5,000 meters champions Jacob Ingebrigtsen. Kipchoge has enjoyed yet another illustrious year, topped off by his 2 hours 1 minute and 9 seconds world record set at the Berlin Marathon in September this year. The winner will be announced on December 5. Meanwhile, the national under-18 boxing team that was scheduled to participate in the IBA Youth Men's and Women's World Champion in Alicante from 14 to 26 of November will not be traveling to Spain due to financial constraints.
Imekuwa ni pigo kubwa kabisa kwa wachezaji hawa, lakini basi hali ndio hivyo, itabidi waendelee kufanya mazoezi na itakuwa ngumu kwa sababu kufikia wakati ujao wa mashindano kama haya wao watakuwa wamepita ule umri wa kuweza kushiriki. So hii ni chance kubwa sana wamepoteza ya kuweza kujipima nguvu na vijana dhidi ya vijana wenzao, lakini basi hatuna la kusema zaidi.
According to the Boxing Federation of Kenya Communications Director Duncan Kuria, the team did not get the required facilitation from the Ministry of Sports.
Kitu na hope for the better games kiendelea, na I hope watasupport team zetu ya Dondi kabisa, cause wase hii game iko na machamp na watu wamejitolea.
The team of 10 boxers, 7 men and 3 women, has been in an unresidential training camp at Mathare Depot for a month under the head coach Musa Benjamin, assisted by David Munohe and Julius Theuri. The men's team comprised of Diof Muhimi, Dennis Muia, Wycliffe Chesire, Joshua Cliff, Joseph Karumba, Francis Ongeta and Douglas Muia, while Jen Wangari, Faith Nafuna and Juliet Akinyi made the cut in the women's team. The 2022 World Cup finals in Qatar will be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1 and all KBC radio stations beginning on the 20th of this month to the 18th of December 2022. World Cup iko KBC. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Now, with 5 days to the start of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, today in our player profile segment, we focus on Kevin De Bruyne, or De Bruyne. De Bruyne is a Belgian professional footballer who plays as a midfielder for Premier League club Manchester City, as well as the Belgium national team. He is widely regarded as one of the best players in the world and of his generation. Pundits have often described him as a complete footballer. Well, thank you for joining us for the KBC Sports Update with me, Richard Munga. This has been fun. Do have a lovely night. And don't go too far. Mboya is on the other side of the studio. Good night.
Thank you very much, Richard Munga. 5 days indeed to go to the FIFA World Cup 2022. For those of you who might not be able to travel, we will bring Qatar to you. Thank you for watching on behalf of the entire Prime Edition team, including Susan Thuku and Wairimu Janga. My name is Mboya. Good night from Nairobi.